Hi, I'm Drew, a drag queen living in LA with my husband Curtis, my dog JB, and an SSRI that RFK is going to take from me. Damn it.
And I'm Grant. I'm a former pastor. I live in Florida with my kids and my puppy dogs. One of them's right here. This is Obi. Hey, Obi.
Wait, let me
Uh,
show my dog. JB,
that's a
look over
plant.
here.
That's
Oh,
clearly a plant.
today's episode we recorded last year, so I don't remember it at all.
So it's actually a friend of mine who I worked with her dad for her dad at a church in Memphis, and
Yeah,
it's her
you
story.
did.
We
You worked for her
reconnected.
dad. Yeah.
We reconnected over Twinnuendo. She has a great podcast called The Cool Table, and checked it out and loved it. And
Exclusive.
she has a really great story, and she had left the church as well. She's a really cool person. I think she's super smart, super funny. She sings on the show, which pisses Drew off, and I love it. Hope you enjoy the conversation.
We've
It's
been
pretty
sitting on this
good.
episode for a couple months now. The reason being, we knew at some point there would be a recording conflict. And you know what? That day finally came.
Yep,
So
Drew
enjoy it.
refused to
I
get off his
remember
roof.
nothing.
He
I
refused to get off
won't.
his roof.
I won't. We have such nice weather here in LA. It's a dry
It
heat.
is
Okay, Grant,
nice.
I'm sorry.
It
I have
is
to
great.
go. I have to go to the light.
No, don't. We have more episodes.
I'm
Heaven is pretty gay, I guess. Oh, it's not that.
like, well, I'm okay.
This episode, we've got Beth. We've got Beth Thorne, and Beth is a blast from my past specifically. Or you know what? Maybe I'm a blast from her past. Okay? I'm not at the center of everything, Beth, like
That's
you
right.
accuse me of with your look. My brother Drew, you guys just met a few minutes ago, so you've known each other for a really long time.
I'm impressed
And
already. Yeah.
I would
Yep.
like to let you introduce yourself and kind of what's our connection.
I am a pastor's daughter. My dad, for 40 years, has been youth director / executive pastor / lead pastor at the church in Memphis that Grant left in what year? Like 2015?
17.
17.
When I left,
Yeah.
yeah, 2017.
I grew up at that church. My dad, one of Grant's coworkers, I guess. And so we met each other there. And yeah, I left that church finally in 2019, 2020, and haven't been to church since. So
Yeah.
Listen, the pandemic, it killed a lot of people, but it really saved some lives. Okay?
Yeah. So my reintroduction to you was when I left in 2017. You were still at the church, and we did you reach out via Instagram? Was that
yeah, I did.
was that you?
To you.
Yes. You had found good old Twinnuendo, and I was shocked, thrilled, and happy to get your message. Because again, last time I had any inkling of what you were doing in this world, you were still at our former church. And yeah, to hear.
Did you do
where you
something at the
landed.
church? Were you job or did you just attend?
Yeah, I had worked at the church with several different roles for many years. I'd also been fired from the church twice and still went there. So, yeah.
Because you were stealing money?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
I had worked in the daycare system when I was like in college and then right after college. And then I got a job as the communications director right after I had my first daughter. I kind of created the role for myself. The senior pastor kind of nepo-baed me right into that one. And I was like, yeah, I'll do this.
There you go.
And it was the early aughts, and this was not a great, like, in terms of technology, this church did not know what they were doing. And so I redid all their brochures and wrote all of their copy for their website and was doing the bulletin and the PowerPoints and all that stuff. And I got fired from that job about 4 months after my second daughter was born. There was a little coup.
Because of your
Time for a
second daughter?
transition.
Yeah, they
Oh,
really
yeah,
hated
that's
her.
a great question.
Yeah.
She comes up later in my story while I left. But no, there was just like this little
Foreshadowing.
a little guy that didn't like that there was a woman on staff helping program worship and kind of telling the senior pastor what to preach, and had a little bit too much influence on what was going out to people. And also they were just like, didn't have enough money to keep me on. But anyway, I got fired and stayed. And then the reason Grant ended up at our church is because I was working there again. I went back and worked there for them again. And me and then a couple of other people that were on staff tried to plant another church. Well, we didn't try. They're still there. They're rocking and rolling.
Yeah.
And we left them in kind of a lurch, and they needed a youth pastor, and they hired Grant, which I think they found you from, well, I don't have to say names.
Craigslist.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
No, it was your dad was the youth pastor of mine and Drew's former youth pastor. I had called like a week before and just said, hey, this church I'm at's terrible. I don't know what to do. And he was like, I may know somebody. So he actually reached out to your dad and said, what's going on? What do you guys need
Networking
anything?
is so important. It doesn't
worked.
matter what industry you're in. You simply have to network.
Well, and if you're
I've
in an
always said
industry
it.
where they don't care if you're educated or not, it is everything, actually. So that's how that works.
It is so
Yeah.
unbelievably true. I had a Twinnuendo listener send me a message a couple of days ago, and they asked a question that was really sad to answer and funny at the same time. Was they were like, "So, what qualifications does it take to become a youth pastor?" I was like,
Do you have a
breathing.
penis?
Free time.
Yeah, well,
There you go.
that is absolutely required. You do need to have a penis for obvious reasons.
Were you asking us? Because I'll answer. Yes, I do.
Yeah,
I've been
I couldn't
listening.
tell.
I'm aware. I've listened to your
great.
episodes.
Cool. Yeah. No, we should cut that down.
Yeah, I would
We'll
like
work
us
on it.
stop talking. I'd like Drew to stop describing our bodies in detail to people. That'd be great.
I would love for you to know what your body looks like, Grant, so I wouldn't have to tell you what your nipples look like. That's
Well,
on you, brother.
We could FaceTime about it. It doesn't have to be on here. Sorry, Beth, you got in
Oh,
the middle
that's
of
true.
this.
Sorry, Beth. I apologize.
So yeah, so that's how I ended up there. And so anyway, so Beth, you are married to a guy who can do it all, right? I mean, he just Mr. Fix It. He does
Yes.
everything.
I'm married to
That's
someone.
the reputation I always knew of him.
Well, that's what my dad preaches about on a regular basis, is that his son-in-law
Oh, yeah.
can do anything, which is really like a lot of envy. My dad can't do anything, can't fix
Yeah.
anything, so he just is very envious. My
He's
husband
fixing
was,
souls.
is
but-
he?
Okay.
Is he though? Yeah.
No, I know. It's funny.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it is funny. No, my husband was raised in a cult, actually. And yeah, he's got a great little story. And
Okay,
so,
Beth, if you could go ahead and get him in here, and
Oh my God.
we'll talk to you another time. Cult,
he would have
cult,
nothing to
cult.
say. I have so much more to say about his cult than he does. He doesn't care. That's why it's interesting. He raised in that cult, couldn't care less. And he
could you
is
give us
just
like
gorgeous. And
a summary, like a Reader's Digest version of like the cult? Because everyone listening is going to be like, you mentioned a cult and never talked about it. So little peek into the cult.
Sure. It was called the Worldwide Church of God, and they essentially believe that they are, again, the only ones that are going to heaven. And they did everything. They had
might
like Sabbath on Saturdays, and they followed Jewish law. They did like the Feast of Tabernacles and unleavened bread, but a very like supersessionist, sanitized Gentile thing. But yeah. That's what it was.
I just started listening to a podcast. I don't remember the name of it. That is siblings talking about being in that exact church, the Worldwide Church
Really?
of God. I just started it. It's like this new
Wow.
cult podcast. Anyway, well, I'll find it. I'll send it to you.
Siblings
yes.
talking about church. I don't think that sounds fun.
It's
I
not
wouldn't
going
like
to
to
work.
listen to that.
Long term,
No.
it won't work.
It'll
So
fail
your
for
your
sure.
husband's great, and
Yes.
you have children as well. You're a
I
mom.
do. Yeah.
You've
they're
got strong
old.
mom energy.
Oh.
Yeah. How old are they?
They're 20 and 18.
What?
Yeah.
Wait.
Well,
what?
Beth was.
Did you have
I mean,
kids like in high school?
Well,
Kind
no,
of.
middle school, actually. She was the Mary in all of the plays because she was actually pregnant when she was 13.
That's why
So
you
she
kept getting
was-
pregnant so that you could land the Mary role in
Yeah.
the nativity.
It
And she
worked
kept
every
two of
time.
them, obviously.
Yeah,
The other
had to get rid of a couple. Wow.
I'm a
Oh
little
my
older than
gosh.
y'all. I'm just slightly older than you guys, but we
Barely.
did start young. Yeah.
Wow, you look great.
I know.
Okay.
Thanks.
I honestly thought I just thought we
That's
were all
great.
young 30-somethings, like early
We're
30s.
we're
We're
not at all.
33.
None of us are there, but okay.
I live in LA. I can make up my own rules about age.
Oh,
Now,
they'll drag you into the street and shoot you if you're not in your 30s or lower. So
I was about to
protect
say,
yourself.
not you live
sometimes I
there
welcome
now. You live there now, but make it to 44.
is there any child, okay? Is there any of you've got two? Is there one that you like better than the other, and why? She's
No one's,
putting her
they're not
hands
going to
up
see it.
for-
They're
for
not going to see
listeners,
it.
She's putting her hands up, because
They're
she's
not-
smiling. She's
they're
trying
not
to hide
gonna
her
see it.
smile.
There are absolutely things that I love about one of them more and one of them more. Like I love one of them more for this one thing, and I love the other one more for this other thing. You know?
Great answer. Great
Yeah.
mom
That's
answer.
exactly
Dig
what
it.
our mom would say.
Okay, but for example,
But
like
not mean
with
it.
my children, some are more like easily bonded to Angela, and some are more like some of them speak my language, some of them speak her language. Is that it? Do you have that split in your house as well? Is one of them
No.
like all about your husband, or
No,
they're all
because they're
about
both
you? You're
they're
number
both
one.
girls. They're both girls, so that helps. Also, I'm an
Yeah.
excellent parent, so they're very attached to me.
Wow.
I read the
and-
reviews. I heard you were
Yeah.
excellent.
A
Yep.
woman with confidence. Now I see why you got fired at church. Now I
Right.
see why you didn't last.
Oh, I don't even have to tell my story. That's it. You found it. You've got the whole. That's
That was
it
it.
right there. They're very like. I don't know. They don't. They both. It's not one or the other. One of them is very. She's queer. She's got ADHD like my husband. So they get each other kind of on a simpatico level. Like they eat the same two foods, that kind of thing. And my other daughter's a basic bitch, and we go shopping at TJ Maxx all the time. So I mean, they're.
Love her.
You know.
I love that. Beth, can I tell you what happened to me last week at a Marshall's?
Yep. Can't wait.
Okay.
I don't know the story, so Beth, I apologize.
I don't think I'm disgusting. I just want to put that out there. I want to match your energy of confidence. And I want to say confidently, I don't think I'm gross for this. But I'm curious, Beth, what you think. Okay. So I go to Marshall's. I find a shirt. And recently I gained a little bit of weight in my tummy area, which is totally normal and fine. And all bodies are beautiful. Okay. Don't make that face, Beth. That's really fucked up. But I found this shirt. I go in dressing room. I try the shirt on. It is tight around the chest. It not tight around my saggy nipples, and it flows out. It's a very flowy top. And I'm like, ooh, I'm feeling very confident in this. I love this. I look great. I look down. Okay. Shirt's still on me. I look down. I see what looks like a little bit of human poo-poo on the hem of the shirt. Now, I'm not.
what?
Wait. Now, I'm not sure that this is human poo-poo. It could also be like a milk chocolate moment. And it's really
You have
small.
to
It's
taste
adorable.
it. You have to lick it. There's no
Well,
other way. There's no other way.
Well, Grant, don't ruin my story. So, no. So I take the shirt off and I go to look for another one that doesn't have poop on it, but I can't find another one anywhere. And I feel so good in this shirt that I take it up to the counter and I say, hello. There is something on this. I don't know what it is, but I look really great in this shirt. Can I buy this? And she gave me $2 off. It was $12.
The poop discount.
She put it in a bag and tied it in a knot so no poop would fall out on the way home. Am I disgusting for buying it?
Yes.
No, wait. I don't want to. No, I don't want to. No, that's not. I'm not disgusting. Did I make a mistake?
Yes.
I was promised that the scatological was not going to be a part of this event, so I'm out.
I
From
did. I
Grant.
led with.
Oh,
That's
sorry.
true. That
It was my
just
number one
disclaimer.
question. Okay.
Well, you bring up
really
TJ
was.
Maxx, and I had a very serious thing happen to me, and I just wanted to see if we were on the same page. And clearly,
Well, the
not,
flowiness,
so
I
that's
really
okay.
thought the story was going like it was going to end up being a maternity shirt, and you still got
and
it.
it might
that
be.
would've been good.
Okay.
And it absolutely might be. Here's what I think happened. It was a busy mom. She just needed a moment in the Marshalls for herself. And she's trying on this shirt, and her baby's like, you know
They
how
do
babies
that.
do
That's
with their
how they
hands.
do. They're
Ew.
always
I don't know.
grabbing.
I haven't been around a baby in a long. I'm not allowed around kids because
Legally.
groomer. But
Clearly.
Yeah.
but she picks up baby, diaper fall off, diaper full, diaper fall off. She put baby on
Diaper
hip.
always fall off.
She put baby on hip, and a little bit of baby poo poo hit shirt. That's what I think happened,
Here's what happened.
and that's okay.
Here's what happened. Was this in the women's section or the men's section?
The women's section.
Okay, here's what happened. A woman went to try on about 20 different pieces of clothing, including this shirt. She couldn't make it to the restroom because it's on the wrong side of a Marshall's. And she just a quick, and she was like, I can't go out like this.
And she put the shirt back?
And she used the shirt to clean up her mess so that she could get the rest of her haul.
Even worse. I thought you were going to make this, I thought you were going to give me an explanation that was going to give this woman
dignity,
me too. But
no, way. Women are gross.
We're feminists, Beth. Sorry,
we're gross in fitting rooms
here.
at Marshall's. There's no, it's the seventh layer of hell.
Oh, it's an unholy place.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an
so we just
place.
make it worse.
Okay, well, I've learned a lot about myself in this, so I want to thank you, Beth. I have a lot of work to do. Thank you so much.
If anyone's still watching this, I'd love to get to your story, Beth. So, Beth, you have an excellent podcast called The Cool Table.
Thanks.
And funny enough, when we reconnected over your complete adoration of Twinnuendo, like the awe that you were in,
actually,
you were struggling to find words.
I was a little pissed,
Beth.
actually.
We got to keep going.
No. See, here's what happened. Y'all showed up organically on my Instagram feed, and which was weird because it's been a long time since I've seen or talked to you. I don't even think I was following you or your wife or anything. Like, no shade to you of any sort. Just we weren't buds. You know, you were just somebody that used to go to my dad's church. When it showed up kind of organically on my feed, I was like, oh, great. I looked at it, I was like, this seems great. I had no idea that you had left the church. And then I watched it through. And then I was mad that your numbers were so good on those couple of reels. I was like, how do they have such high numbers on fucking reels? I used to be a social media consultant for like 15 years. I was pissed. I was real pissed. So then I did a little digging and found IMHO, and I was like, God damn it. They did a little workaround. Yep. It's not fair.
I've had people from my old life, not just people from our old church. I mean, people from our old church, some of them, obviously, they've reached out to troll me recently about the Trump victory, which I know you voted for the guys, so that's cool. Mm-hmm. Just kidding. I know you're very sick about it. But actually, your latest episode, your podcast was on hiatus for a very long time, and you just released a new episode, and it's you and your co-host. What's her name?
Amy.
Sorry, I forget.
Amy.
Who's great. It's you two unraveling on a podcast. And it was, my wife and I both listened to it, and it was great because we haven't really had space to unravel too. You know what I mean? Like we've just talked to each other and unraveled. So having someone do it on the podcast, we could do it all together. And so it was very cathartic is all I'm saying. So thank you very much. But I've had people from our past reach out, not just to troll us, but to talk to me about the podcast. Some of them have left the church, and I had no idea. Our Christian college that we went to, Drew, a group reached out to me from there that they've all left the church and they love our podcast for, whatever. And they've asked me,
nice.
How'd you start the podcast? Like, how do you do this? Like, how do you start a podcast? I was like, well, step one, have a twin brother who's wildly successful on YouTube. It's pretty fucking easy after that. Like, if you can get step one, step two just takes care of itself. So sorry, Beth. I mean, unless you've got a twin somewhere that's hidden in a closet and still
really
wildly
hope not,
successful.
Because I'd have to kill that
I need
bitch.
to get out of the closet. Yeah, I hate her. She poops on shirts at Marshall's. I've heard.
That's where
clearly.
So, anyways, sorry I went way off track there. Your podcast is fantastic. I really love it, and it's really fun to listen to. You did 3 episodes at the as your show went into hiatus. You did 3 episodes where you talked about your journey out of the church, and I love them. I listened to one of them more than once.
Oh wow!
So just
dedication.
It's great. It's dedication. It's great. My wife, it brought all kinds of conversations up between me and my wife. It was really, really great. So very, very, very selfishly, I was like, I wonder if I could get her to tell this story to me and my brother. And so, I'd love for you to, starting at the top, you grew up in the church. We know your dad is still the pastor of that church out there in
Really?
Memphis.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
How old is he?
He's 70.
42.
He's 70.
Oh.
He's only 70. Oh, y'all have kids in middle school. I forgot. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, that's not Christianity. That's just Tennessee. Like that's just because abstinence is all we teach.
Yeah. funnily enough, my dad is 26 years older than me, and I'm 26 years older than my second daughter. I'm his second daughter. Isn't that sweet?
Whoa.
Yeah.
And the journey goes on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, I grew up in the church. My dad got a job at the church that he is still the senior pastor of when I was 4 years old, and I stayed there until I was 40, except for a small
that's commitment.
hiatus. I know. Except for a small hiatus when we hired Grant. But other than that, I was there
She had
every
to get
Sunday.
out. She had to get out.
One of the things I said in that podcast episode, first one, is that I didn't meet a non-Christian until I was 16 and got my first job, because my mom has a huge family, grew up with a ton of cousins. They are all very evangelical. And I have a bunch of like church, like the pastor uncles, or they were like church adjacent. They were in like parachurch organizations, other Christian institutions. Right. And then, of course, my dad was a pastor, and I went to a segregation academy, a very famous one.
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
A segregation academy.
What does that mean?
Yeah. What is that?
For anybody who's not from the South, when Brown versus the Board of Education went into effect in the 60s, a lot of people not only moved into the suburbs, they'd already been moving white flight into the suburbs, but they pulled their kids out of public schools and put them into private school segregation academies, because at the time, private schools did not have to be integrated, or they could keep them out through other means like exorbitant tuition or not having busing, not having after school care programs, all that kind of stuff. So the school that I grew up in, kindergarten through the day I graduated, is one of those segregation academies. I didn't know that at the time. I didn't know that that's what they were called. No, that one's just for boys.
ECS.
ECS.
ECS. That was the cream
Go Eagles,
of the
fly,
crop.
Eagles, fly, baby.
I remember
Right?
being so jealous of the ECS kids.
Yeah.
Going
Yeah,
to church, you
where do
knew
you think my
who the
confidence
ECS
comes
kids
from?
were. Okay, there it is. There it is.
I just didn't know anybody that wasn't a Christian. It didn't occur to me that that was a way that you could like live or whatever. My brother and I were talking about this the other day, and he was just like, our church was not very, y'all grew up in like the most legalistic church in the Memphis area. The kids that went to y'all's church, I made fun of on a regular basis. So
Because you were
fine.
jealous. And
yeah,
that's
you were
okay.
jealous because you didn't have a mile-high 3-cross.
Did your Christmas tree
statue
sing?
or whatever?
Did your
Yeah,
Christmas tree
Christmas
sing?
tree sing?
speaking of my segregation academy and the Christmas tree, the singing Christmas tree, I started a literary magazine in like the 10th grade at our school. And, I founded this literary magazine along with one of my ex-boyfriends. And I was very dedicated to it. This was how nerdy I was.
I miss him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My senior year, I had a friend who wrote a poem. He actually came out of the closet in college. He was gay, but I didn't know that at the time. Yeah.
Well,
and
he wrote a poem.
he wrote a poem about the singing Christmas tree. It was a satire. It was making fun of it. It was very subtle. I mean, gay kids that are in the closet. It was very scathing, but subtle, right? And the poem was actually in the shape of a Christmas tree. It was perfect. So I put it on the cover of our literary magazine for our winter edition. And I lost my editorship because all of the Bellevue kids found out that's what he was making fun of. And their parents called, and I got booted out of the literary magazine that I founded because Bellevue kids were the motherfucking worst.
Yeah,
Don't
baby.
come for Bellevue.
You don't come for Bellevue. Woo! Your literary magazine was started at your segregation academy. So what was the name of it? White's Rat?
I want you to remember, we did not know that that's what we were, all right? We had one black kid that went there.
You're very committed to that story, but I see right through it. All right. But okay, you didn't know. But go ahead. So what was it called? What was your publication?
It was called The Dictionary of Received Ideas.
God.
My ex came up with that.
Damn
that
it.
part.
Well,
I
now
did
I
not
see why
contribute
you're
that.
an ex. Yikes.
God. Oh, that's
tough.
Oh,
That's tough.
That's a lot, Beth. Hey, thanks for being with us. I think we're going to cut it
Yeah.
here.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, so you grew up in the segregation academy. Sorry, and you grew up in the church. You were always there. I'm assuming. Did you just live at the church as a kid?
I literally lived at the church. There were times where I slept on the couch in my dad's office. So yeah, I was there all the time. And I think, I mean, I don't know what it was like when you got there. You were an adult when you got there. You were married. You had kids. But our church was pretty laid back. It wasn't very
Still was.
legalistic. Yeah.
Yeah.
They weren't really concerned with purity culture and satanic panic and all that stuff that was big in the 80s and 90s. It was just very chill. They wanted kids to have a good time. They wanted them to love Jesus and all that stuff. But it wasn't the way you guys grew up where everything was so regimented and there were just a ton of rules.
Can I tell you one of the things to compliment that church? One of the things that I haven't ever seen in any other church was when I got there all the way till when I left, there were teen moms. And I'm not just talking about you, obviously, when you were 13, but there were a lot of teen moms, and that church took care of them.
Yeah.
They didn't ostracize them. They didn't judge them. They didn't make them feel weird. They completely took care of these families. And so it was a strange place. There was some really nice things about that community.
Do you think the church took care of the teen moms in large part because of the success of MTV's Teen Mom? Do you think they saw that perhaps they had a cash cow in those young girls?
Yeah, I think it predated that, didn't it? When was Teen Mom a thing?
After my time.
Not soon enough. Not
You know
soon
what?
enough.
It was probably MTV's hit show Next. That's what they were thinking about.
Yeah. Yeah. So it kind of gave me, I think I was primed to kind of be the kind of person who had progressive-ish beliefs because our senior pastor wasn't fire and brimstone. He was just a good old boy. I mean, he made a lot of gaffes and it didn't matter. He says what he thinks and it kind of doesn't matter. When you guys were talking about your therapy episode, I kept thinking like, no, man, Brother John been talking about taking his happy pills since the 80s and would tell people from the pulpit, go get your happy pills when you need them. Like that's just how it was there.
And I'll also say, though, knowing his wife, that guy, he had to have those pills. Like he would not be walking this earth if he did not have those pills. She was
Okay, explain that to me.
something else.
What was she?
She
Beth,
is
do you
take Dolly
please.
Parton. All right. Take Dolly Parton.
Got it.
Cher and a little bit of not Jane Fonda energy. Who is it? A B. Arthur, a little Golden Girls energy, but in a Dolly Parton vibe. And she's maybe the meanest person you've ever met, but she's also
Okay,
scary.
so a drag queen.
Yeah.
She's
yeah,
a drag queen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's a drag queen.
She's
Yeah,
incredibly
that's great.
scary.
Okay.
Incredibly scary.
She was,
I love her.
So Beth,
I really love her, but she's
I'm
terrifying.
I'm so glad
We'll cut that
you
part
do.
out. We'll cut out
She's
the
so
I love
scary.
her part.
Beth, is it true? I wasn't there when it happened. Is it true that at one point the elders of the church asked her to stop going to the church for a little while?
I mean, she wasn't really coming anyway, to be quite frank.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
No,
Yeah.
she used to be in charge of the wedding ministry, which in the 80s and 90s, you can imagine is booming. So she was in charge of,
Wow.
the gazebo that had to get put up and the white candles and the tulle and all the things.
And she checked both their genitals too to make sure that it was a man and a woman.
Clearly.
That was part of her
Yeah,
job.
obviously
Yeah.
you have to.
But yeah, she made a lot of brides cry. And they were like, I
That's
think we need to give this to
so
somebody
amazing.
else. So yeah. Do
You
you
have
remember,
to meet this woman.
speaking of her as Dolly Parton, Grant, do you remember this is like one of the only times I remember having like a one-to-one interaction with you. You had uploaded, I think my dad or the other guy who had a little bitty tiny office upstairs but wasn't on staff. Do you know who I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah,
Had
I know what you're
asked
talking
you to digitize some videos for them and put them on YouTube. And one of them was a Valentine night. We used to do this Valentine's banquet thing in the 80s where they lip synced to a bunch of like 50s and 60s songs. And actually, the pastor's wife came out as Dolly Parton every year, and somebody else did Kenny Rogers. My dad did Elvis every year, all this stuff. And one of the guys came out as James Brown in blackface. And I immediately contacted you. I was like, please take this down. Please take this down. Did you even watch it? Like, did you?
No, I definitely didn't. Yes,
I don't
I
even
do
know
remember
why I
that.
saw it. I don't remember how I found
do
it
remember
or
that.
what happened, but I was like, this can't be up. Like, because at the time I was still going to the church, I was like, he's doing blackface. He's doing James Brown blackface. Please take it down.
Yeah, but he nailed
Oof.
the dance. I mean, his
mean,
moves.
clearly.
There's no
uncanny.
arguing there. The art was
Uncanny.
there.
The art
Yeah.
was there. The
Yeah.
the heart wasn't. We got way off. But your beliefs, were they always a little contradictory to the main line, or
I
what?
mean,
How did that begin to separate, or did it?
it did around the time I garnered critical thinking skills, I think. So like in high school, I mean, I'm severely indoctrinated. I mean, that's what I don't think that being kind of, on the looser side with theology meant that they weren't indoctrinating us. They absolutely were. And again, I went to an evangelical Christian school. I was being indoctrinated every single day from all corners. But because they had kind of a non-fire and brimstone preaching style, it allowed me to have progressive like ideas about other things. So I wasn't taught evolution in high school, but then I took anthropology in college and I was like, oh, well, this makes sense. How am I squaring this with what I believe about the Bible? And then I was like,
Does
finding
it? Can I just say, does it though? I mean, okay,
it does, yeah.
Did
Sorry.
you bring
It
any
does.
evidence?
Did you? Yeah. What about Lee Strobel? How about you answer to Lee Strobel,
Oh,
ma'am?
Lee Strobel
Get on that arc, baby.
has a very
Yeah.
specific place in non-existent hell for his books. But yeah,
Him and Joshua Harris.
yeah, he his books. But yeah, I was very easily able to like pile scholarship on top of what I learned and be like, well, that makes sense. I mean, it makes sense that the creation story is a framework story or a myth or, a example of the temple and things like that instead of being this like literal thing. That makes sense to me. And so I was able to keep those beliefs and still go to church there. It didn't really have a, make a big difference. And then around the time I graduated from college and got married at 22, which I don't recommend anybody do. I had a friend who like came out really painfully, had a very similar story to you, Drew, who was forced out of the closet and his family was awful. He went through a really, really horrible depression and really self-harm for a long time. And I mean, immediately my thought on that was, well, I would never do this to my children. This is not good fruit. This is not, what I think the Bible even cares about or has anything real to say about. So I'd been gay affirming all of my adult life because of that, because that happened when we were in college. So, I mean, that squaring my progressive kind of beliefs with what we did and said at that church wasn't that hard because they weren't fire and brimstone, but also because I was Randy's daughter. And so I got kind of a little bit of cachet. People would come to me and ask me questions about the Bible. I didn't really go to anybody and ask them questions about the Bible. I had education and I had like my dad's influence as Mr. Apologetics man. And so if somebody was like, well, what, how can you think that like being gay is okay? And I'd be like, well, here's why I think that. No one was telling me that I had wrong beliefs. I was able to like fight with them about it and come out on top because I was good at fighting with people.
Yeah.
That's-
Well, you started a literary magazine. It does take a backbone to do that.
Yeah,
So,
there's
that makes sense.
no little snowflakes doing that work.
I don't think so.
So
Also, nobody had any friends either.
That's a really
That
good
helps.
point.
That actually
So
helps.
basically, Beth, what I'm hearing is everything within evangelical Christianity, from your point, is great, and you're still there.
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
where this story's going?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, perfect. Thanks for
great.
being here. And no, so it was easy for you to stay for a while. You fired and stayed even. You
Yeah.
came back after leaving, but then you finally left in 2020. So let's get to all that. What happened in that whole shakeup?
So between when my children were born and leaving in that like 15 years or so, like I'm still indoctrinated. Like I still don't have any reason to think that God isn't real. I'd kind of quit believing in hell. I'd kind of, I started to believe that the Holy Spirit was the divine feminine. There's just like a bunch of things that, I was aware that Paul didn't write, the pastoral epistles, all that stuff. Like I just was
What?
I know, right? It's crazy. But I was just
learning.
discarding things. They would preach. I would go to my dad's services every week and like things were bouncing off of me. I was not listening. This just was not something that I cared about. And I had been kind of, I was in the worship team. This time I was not on staff anymore, but I was singing every Sunday.
Hey, let me interrupt. Drew, Beth is a phenomenal singer. Like,
No, I know.
phenomenal.
You brought that up when you said she was going to be a guest, and I said that if she sang, I would physically fight her. So
He's in
I'm
LA.
glad
You're
you're
safe,
talented.
Beth. You're safe. He's not coming back to Memphis. He'll never come back to
I'm
Memphis.
not allowed
You're
back.
safe.
I'm in a liberal hellscape.
That's
You
true.
think that the plane will even be allowed into Tennessee? I don't think so.
That's true. So Beth, just go ahead and sing a little bit for us.
Well, do you
No,
want to have
don't.
like a
Beth,
do you
we
want to
don't
have
have
like
the
a Sandy
copyright.
Sandy Patty off? I mean,
Oh,
what's your favorite Sandy Patty
Drew.
song?
Sandy Patty. Okay. So
Here
you
he
know
goes.
this, Beth.
You started this,
We
Beth.
were not, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. We were not allowed secular music for the most part. And then our parents kind of got lazy with it. But so we were the middle school kids, elementary school even, that when we could have tape day, I remember in 5th grade, you could bring your tape players on Fridays and you could listen to your tapes. And
I had
we
Elton
had
John, by the way.
a
Mom and Dad
giant
were cool with that
Ziploc.
for some reason.
Well, because they knew you weren't gay. They didn't want to tempt me because I was a little fishy. But anyway, we had these gallon fucking Ziploc bags that have been reused 100 times. And inside was Steve Green and Sandy Patty. That was
Okay.
it. That was my childhood.
How could they breathe in there?
Sandy Patty is, she's a gay icon. And I know she doesn't like that. She is very anti-LGBT. But of all of the queer kids that I've met, you know, as an adult who are drag artists or whatever, Sandy Patty, for whatever reason, I think it was like she was our first pop star who also looked like
Right.
our middle school choir teacher.
Exactly.
I'm obsessed with her. I live for her.
And the songs,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
the songs are so cunty. Like,
Oh
they're-
my God, yes.
I mean, okay, all right. We do need to have a Sandy Patty off. I really feel like you've got a favorite. I want to hear what it is.
Oh, Bethlehem Morning is my favorite.
Okay.
It starts so softly, but then you know it's going to end with 3 key changes for no reason. And that is beautiful. Via Dolorosa, of course.
Via Dolorosa
You guys keep
Can't
going.
is the
get enough.
best. Yes.
Keep going.
And I'm going to say the anchor holds. Sorry. I think the anchor holds is fantastic. I think her
Isn't that a
version
Ray
is
Bolt
fantastic.
song?
It's not Ray. Did you say Ray
Right,
Bolt?
it's
I don't know.
No, I don't
yeah,
think so.
it wasn't Sandy Patty originally, right? I'm looking it up. You guys keep talking.
I think it is
Her-
not
okay,
originally written
there-
for a woman. No. But she, of course, covered it because she's Sandy Patty.
Well, why would they write anything for a woman? Her concert, 1989 something concert. It's an hour and a
Ray
half. It's on
Bolt's.
YouTube. It's free.
Ray Bolt's song?
It is so fantastic. What was the song she did with sign language?
I
She only
can't hear
did one
you.
song.
I can't think of what it is.
Yeah.
So my favorite,
I remember.
Go
Oh
ahead.
yeah, go. No.
My fa-
I want to hear you.
Jesus.
my favorite is When They Pierced Your Side because it was always sung by Mary, the mother of Jesus, during the Easter cantata. And
And that's
the
why you were
way-
getting pregnant.
the way that one builds, are you kidding me? Because it
Yeah.
goes into Amazing Love at the end. It's incredible. I'm just a mezzo. I can barely sing the end of that song, but the beginning, when they pierced your side, did
I
they
knew we'd get
think
it.
Okay.
they could open your heart anymore?
Yes.
It is the cuntiest song ever to.
I
What?
knew we were
I-
going to get her to sing. I knew all I had to do was mention singing. I knew it was going to happen.
Don't you? If you ever come to LA, it's on
Yeah?
site.
All right.
You talented fucking bitch.
You coming
I-
on our
when we-
podcast? You're going to sing better than my brother? Fuck you, Beth.
Fuck you, Beth. When we were in middle school, she released her album "Another Time, Another Place."
Another
And I
time
really do
in
believe-
another place. Go
I
ahead.
knew it. Yeah.
I do believe that was her attempt at something a little more contemporary. And I venture to say she thought it was going to pull her into the secular world a little, which if it had been up to me, it would have. But she made a video. She released a VHS called "Another Time, Another Place, The Making of." And it was all behind the scenes of this music video and how she developed the album.
Boring.
Grant, you remember this tape because we bought it at the Bellevue Baptist gift shop. I wanted it so desperately.
What a great gift shop.
I remember the first time I saw MTV's, remember they used to do they'd follow people as they made their music videos, behind the scenes show. I remember the first time I ever saw that, I thought, oh, this is like what Sandy Patty did. Wow. That's what Sandy Patty did.
Not the other way around.
Okay.
Not the other way around.
I know. It's not the other way around. She is a queer icon, whether she fucking likes it or not.
Maybe she'll come around like Tammy Faye. Like maybe she will. Maybe towards the end of her life.
I don't know. Tammy Faye was good. Tammy Faye was a good stock after all of the fraud. I liked her.
Yeah. So Sandy Patty will get convicted of fraud, and then she'll come around.
Maybe that's all she needs. Well, you know that she left her first husband because she was fucking someone in her band.
Sandy
and now
Patty?
the man Yes. The man she's married to now is the man he was a backup singer or something in her band, and they were having an affair.
Nice.
And she never stopped touring.
Get it,
like,
Sandy.
It didn't affect her evangelical, like, in any of her touring or
Of course
anything?
not.
She's been blessed by
course
God.
not,
That
Grant.
voice is angelic.
That voice. And now, if you want to hear modern day Sandy Patty, her vibrato is out of control, but she does Beauty and the Beast with Voctive. And it's just so beautiful. Anyway, okay, so you left the church.
Wait,
you hate God. Why?
Hang on, wait,
Oh.
wait. You did you spilled some tea on Sandy Patty. Can I just say, their names will mean nothing to anybody, but when we were in middle school and high school, our youth group had these worship leaders that would come to camp, like student camp during the summer, and they lived in the same place. I think they were both in Alabama somewhere, but they lived in the same city, and basically they started this like business where they would book all these camps all over, the evangelical world, and they would play guitar and sing and whatever. And so they started. Did you say yawn? Sorry,
Yeah.
You broke up, and I killed your comedic timing. Fuck.
It's fine.
So they opened a coffee shop. Like their church opened this coffee shop, but it was theirs. Like they owned it together, and they hired this girl who was still in college to run it. And then one year, we didn't have those worship leaders anymore. And they were the only two we ever used. They were both banging that girl. And they were both married and had kids.
At the same time?
But no. They didn't know they were banging the girl. Like they were both having an affair with her.
Get it,
but
bitch.
they didn't know they were having an affair with her.
Good for
and
her.
Then she finally just went, fuck it. I'm fucking both of them. And she outed the whole thing and killed it. Like coffee shop closed down. They lost everything.
What year
Christians
was
are
this?
so horny.
Was this like 2000?
Ooh, yeah.
Okay.
Like 2000, 99, 2000.
In 2000, I was 20 years old. I would have killed.
It was
to be that
Beth. It
girl.
was you. I'm just kidding.
I would have killed to be that girl. That is the dream. Two worship leaders who own a coffee shop who get me to run it, and then I get to have sex with both of them. In 2000, that was legitimately my dream.
That sounds like a real brat summer. So
Yeah,
Beth,
sorry, everybody.
back to when did you started hating God at some point?
You hate God. Why?
You hate God? Why? Yeah, why? He loves you.
So I had
Not your queer kid, but he loves you.
Right.
You're still
I had
in.
been on the worship team for forever and ever, and I had started making like little rebellions. I was like, I'm not singing a patriotic song in a church service. So if it's Memorial Day and you want to do God Bless the USA, I'm out. I'll come out when you're finished with this song. I'm not going to do it. There were songs from when Bethel started to have Scandal and Hillsongs had Scandal. I was like, I'm not singing Oceans anymore. I'm not.
Drew,
so,
did you know that there was a song made famous by Hillsong he wrote a song about recovering from cancer and he performed it with like oxygen mask on and all that shit, and he didn't have cancer? And churches kept performing it. Like when it came out was this big scandal, churches were like, still a good message. Still a good message.
There's a fantastic podcast called Scamanda. So Scam and
I know
Scamanda.
yeah.
And
I've
she
listened to it.
faked having cancer in church so that she could raise a bunch of money. Anyway, it's fantastic. Okay.
what year was
so
that? And
worship
how
leader,
old was
keep
I?
going.
Because I want to be that girl too.
I wish I
Oh
had
my
fake
God.
cancer. I wish I had sex with all these worship leaders.
Wow.
Oh man, Beth.
Anyway.
This is a
I had
wild ride.
sex with two pastors in Memphis at the same time when I was
Please
like
tell me who they are.
18. and they were married. I don't know. One of them was a Presbyterian pastor in Collierville. And then the other one, I think, was like in town for something, for a church thing. And their family, the guy's family was out of town. And so like I had sex with these two married men in one of their homes. And I was 18 and they were very easily in their 40s. So I was loving it because of trauma. But isn't that crazy?
He was
Actually,
living your dream, Beth.
He
was living your dream. They were both worship
See, Beth,
pastors. That's the
this
part he
could have
left
been
out.
you, Beth. This could have been you.
And you have like a nice little well-adjusted family. Idiot. All right,
Yeah,
so
idiot.
you were in the worship band, but you wouldn't sing patriotic songs. By the way, John's wife called me and used to scream at me every 4th of July and every Memorial Day because I wouldn't like salute the troops and I wouldn't preach about America and stuff. She'd call me and it was just a normal thing. I would just be like, oh, there she is. And I would listen to her and she'd yell at me and that was it. And I would be like, okay, I'm sorry.
She's
I'm
got
sorry.
a point.
Yeah,
I mean,
every year.
none of them
Every year.
ever served or anything. Like she has 2 sons that didn't serve. She had a husband who didn't serve. What does she care?
Yeah, but she's serving looks. Let's
She
be
told me
honest.
I didn't. Her go-to line was always, "You don't know what it cost to fly that flag." And then I said, "Do you?" And then she would lose it.
I voluntarily spent time at this woman's home my entire childhood. Like, how many times I've
And
had
she
her
was great to you.
yell at me.
And she was great. Okay. She yelled at you too.
Sure.
Okay, good.
Go
I was
ahead.
just gonna say he used to tell me like, he'd be like, "Hey, call me later. I want to hear about how whatever." Like if I was doing a youth thing like late at night, he'd be like, "Call me. I want to hear about it," or whatever, because he was such a sweet person. But then sometimes he'd be like, "Hey, I'd like for you to call me and tell me about it, but if the answers, just hang up. Like don't just hang up. She's not been in a good mood." He would tell me that if his wife answered, just hang up. I was like, okay. He really was a sweet guy. Anyway, sorry, go
Yeah.
ahead. Hammer.
Okay, Grant and I promise to shut the fuck up so that you can tell your story because
Sorry.
I'm going in blind. I have no idea what's about to happen. I'm very excited.
Oh, good.
Go.
Okay. So this is like the 2017-ish era, and my kids are in the youth group. I do not like the youth pastor at all. I had cautioned my dad at that time to not hire this guy because I had known him when he was a kid and I knew his character and I wasn't happy about it. And we got into several fights. It just got worse and worse. My youngest daughter is queer and she had not come out to everybody at the church, but she'd come out to us and a couple of the kids. And I think there was some chatter about her being queer, even though she was only like 12 at the time. I mean, this is a little kid. Who cares? But he was treating her differently all the time anyway, because he doesn't like kids that were different. And they hired, after you left, Grant, actually, they hired this guy who was super fundamentalist. And I didn't realize that. I don't know if they knew it, but I heard him preach just like one time. And I went to my dad immediately. I mean, I was always going to my dad with shit. He super sick of like me telling him not to hire people or that people sucked. I was like, did you know that this guy's like a hardcore fundamentalist? And he was like, well, he's got some beliefs that maybe we don't really talk about that much, but it's, whatever. And I was like, no, it's not whatever. It's a huge deal. If you've got a young earth creationist and a hardcore patriarchal complementarian in one of your pulpits every Sunday. And we were constantly batting heads about it.
Coming.
Oh,
It's
his
revelation or nothing with this fella.
This guy is so into his dispensationalism, it's ridiculous. In fact, the only thing that I got them to concede on was he was writing this horrible blog all about the end times and his whole dispensations and all that stuff. And he was putting it on the church Facebook page. And I was like, everyone's going to think this is what y'all believe. He's your pastor. He's writing his own personal blog and he's putting it on the Facebook page. They're going to think that y'all think this kooky shit is legit. And so they got him to stop posting the blog on the church's Facebook page, but he could still write about it if he felt like it. And I'm sure he could still preach about it anytime he wanted. And I was just like, y'all are not getting it. Like you're not understanding the kind of what I thought at the time was a real danger to the people that go to this church, because you've got people I thought that my friend group, the people that I spent all of my time with, I thought they were progressive like me. I had plenty of reason to think that. I was in Bible study and small group with these people a lot. And we spent all of our time together. We went on trips together, all that stuff. And these people had what I thought were progressive beliefs. And I was like, you're going to get this guy in and he's going to be kind of poisoning the well of what people think is real. And my dad just didn't listen. I mean, he didn't listen to me a lot, but he really didn't listen about that. And it started to kind of open my eyes to the fact that maybe their belief system was a little bit more fundamentalist than I was comfortable with. And around this time, of course, Trump got elected. And it took actually like the first time, you know, when it was going to be okay. Yeah, the first time.
Yeah, that was fun.
And
Yeah,
you know
was
what? It was never going to happen again. He was president once. It's fine. We'll move on. Surely.
There's
it's
no
not
way
gonna
it can happen again.
There's no way.
No.
There's no way.
It was just a silly, goofy time and an aberration. Anyway, I really thought I was hardcore in my feelings about it and talking about it a lot and did not realize that the people around me had voted for him. I don't know how I was that naive, but it started to come out. Like eventually people started saying, Beth, you need to quit putting on your social media that like the people that voted for Trump aren't real Christians, or the people that voted for Trump are murderers who want kids to be in cages, and which is not something that I was like putting out. But I mean, yeah, I was constantly like he was constantly doing horrible shit. I was talking about it. I was putting it on. I mean, it was happening every day. I guess my conclusion that this couldn't have been any of the people that I went to church with or the people that I cared about was grating on their nerves. And so eventually I got people like saying, well, you know, you can't keep saying this because I voted for him too. It really shocked me. Like I don't know why. Like I don't know. I have blinders on, or I know these people as well as I thought. I was just super disenchanted. I think a lot of people ended up even like blocking me on social media, people I saw every week at church and sometimes more than once. And then COVID happened and it became a perfect excuse to just never go back. I just quietly started, I'd already been kind of deconstructing a lot of other beliefs and kind of spending a lot more time reading different types of scholars than what I had read before. And I really wanted to know why people had done that in 2015. Like how could they possibly have made this choice? And I really had not deconstructed. I mean, I was not complementarian. I believed that women deserved ordination, even though my church didn't believe that. I believed in evolution, even though my church didn't explicitly say that they did. I believed in the divine feminine. I understood that I believed that the Bible was not inerrant. I believed that it was clearly had contradictions and was clearly not written with one voice and stuff like that. But the one thing that I really had not spent a lot of time diving into was the racism inherent in white evangelical Christianity. Yeah. I knew that we came from racist. I live in the city of Memphis, right? We are all aware of the geography of that city and what it looks like and the history. But I really had not like examined how it affected what we believed about the Bible or about Jesus or about atonement.
Right.
Any of that. So I started with like Jamar Tisby, The Color of Compromise, his book, Will Gaffney, who does womanist theology. I just read a lot of Black liberation theology and then read a bunch of stuff about evangelicalism and was like, holy shit. It's not just that these people are racist. It's not just that the Southern Baptist Convention broke off from, you know, the regular Baptists so that they could keep slavery.
Right.
It's baked into what they actually believe. What they believe about salvation is racist. What they believe about why Jesus died is racist. Supersessionism, the belief that the entire Old Testament is precluded for Gentiles and it's really about us and not even necessarily about the Jews, is racist. And it's
Wait,
just,
you mean taking a people group's holiest text and saying it's not about you, it's actually about us? That's racist?
isn't that weird?
Or did we just read it right? They've been reading it wrong. You know? Something to consider. Were you reading all of this and like coming to terms with all of this while you were still at the church, or was this you left and you're like, all right, now I'm gonna dive more into these things?
It's all concurrent. So I guess it started in 2015 or 2016 really. Like I started really kind of reading. Rachel Held Evans has some great books that are really good, like primers for people who are planning to kind of go deeper. Pete Enns, like I said, Jamar Tisby. But then I found Richard Rohr and Brian McLaren, David Bentley Hart, and I guess even that earlier group of people should have included like Rob Bell, and I was like deconstructing eschatologies and stuff. That happened in the years of between 2016 and 2019. And then, so that by the time COVID rolled around, I was very much ready to just throw it all away. But what I thought was going to happen when I left, and it wasn't that I left, there was never a big blow up. I didn't have a fight with anybody. Well, I did have a fight with the youth pastor, which I have the entire 45-minute fight on a voice memo on my phone if you want it. It's great.
What? Wait, what? You recorded, hang on. Was it a live conversation and you recorded it, or they sent you? Oh.
You are so messy. You are so messy, and I'm obsessed.
I love
I
it.
love that.
I love it. Can we listen to it? Not on here, obviously. I
Not
get
on
it.
here.
But can we listen to it? Beth,
Yeah, I'll send it to you. Wow. See, he was such a dick, and this happened at the end of 2019, and I just had it with him. He was such a dick, but it wasn't. I just wanted to go off on him, but I knew I was very angry with him on a particular Sunday. I went in with my phone in my back pocket on record because I was like, I want evidence of this conversation, and it ended up just being 45 minutes of me just letting him have it.
Oh,
so
that's so great. I'm so excited.
I really thought my dad was going to really be angry with me. I went to my dad's house immediately after the fight and told him what happened. And he was like, okay. I was like, do you want the recording? You want to, you want it? And he was like, no, I think I'll be okay without it. And then that happened on a Sunday. And so Monday morning is when they had staff meeting, and he called the youth pastor into his office that Monday. And he was like, okay, I want to hear your side of it. And the guy goes, it doesn't matter. I'm resigning.
Oh my God. You slayed him.
I know.
You did it.
Whoa.
Yeah.
You slayed him, Queen. Was he planning to leave? Was it directly related to your conversation?
Again, I'll say my dad is a locked tomb when it comes to gossip. If anybody has told him a thing, I do not know it. I have a very limited amount of information for what really happened. I'm pretty sure he had his job lined up, but clearly our giant fight in front of about 45 people, moved the timeline up a little bit, I think.
Wait, you weren't in like an office with him letting him have it. You were in the lobby of the church?
Yes.
Oh, shit.
Oh my God.
On a Sunday?
On a Sunday, yeah.
Beth.
You are so messy. You're a gay man. You're a gay man.
It.
Yeah.
Wow.
In fact, the first thing he
Incredible.
said after I went and directly confronted him was, well, thank you so much for doing this in front of all these people. And I was like, yeah, in front of all these people. I was like, I know what it's like when I get in a room with you by myself and it's inappropriate and I'm not doing it anymore. They're all going to witness it.
Fuck.
Ooh.
God, that's awesome.
Wow.
You're
It
my
was
hero.
He
wonderful.
never worked again.
Yeah.
Wow.
Nor did he ever look
God,
another
he
woman in
died
the
that
face.
night.
It was
Did he
great.
ever?
God.
My eyes are up here, guy. So
Exactly.
so you were ready to leave, and when COVID gave you that off ramp. But let me ask you, my exit from the church. Obviously, mine was like sudden and big and public and dramatic
And hilarious.
But even though, if you had described to me what was going to happen to me, and then you had asked me, but like, will people abandon you? I would have been like, no, there's no way. There's no way. Like, literally every Sunday I stand up there and go, I'm a piece of shit. You're a piece of shit. Let's be pieces of shit together and experience grace together. So I'm like, even if I fuck up, they're not going to abandon me, or they won't abandon my kids and my wife for sure. Like that'll never happen. But it did, obviously. And it was a rug pull moment. I never anticipated. I know that sounds naive and stupid, but I really thought no, this is unconditional. They'd never. So when you left, what was your experience like? Like, did the people that you were close to, even though you disagreed, were they like, we love you, we're still on your team? Or was it a lonely period? Like, what was it like once you left that world?
Well, for a lot of people, because it happened in 2020 and 2021, when people were alone anyway, it's probably the same experience that a lot of people had when they left different types of community during COVID. And it was just kind of a slow ghost, basically, is the way I kind of think of it now. When you're in a church community and it's your It's your whole community. It's your whole life. There's a shorthand that allows you to feel intimate with people that is very false. That shorthand is, we all buy into these ideas. I know that because you're here with me. I didn't have to get to know you or talk to you to know that you feel that way. You just showed up in the same place that I'm at 10 o'clock on a Sunday. So we get each other. And that shorthand is really dangerous because it gives you this false sense of intimacy with people. It makes you feel like you're closer to them than you really are. And so you can think these people are your best friends because you see them Sunday morning and you hang out with them Sunday night and they invite you to the cookout because you're part of their small group and they don't have a choice. And y'all joke and everybody's friends, their kids are all swimming in the pool together. But the truth is they probably don't know you very well. And if you take out that shorthand by no longer showing up where they are on Sunday morning, one, they don't have to pretend to like you anymore. But also there's a little bit of a betrayal there because churches are very territorial. And the thing that they can have, the only thing they can have is people's time and attention. And they want people in those seats. And if you're not in the seat of the church that they're in, then you're against them. If you're not for them, if you're not in those pews, you're against those pews and you're against those places. There's a loyalty that's broken if you decide to leave or you decide to go to another church. And the people that are still in that church no longer want really have anything to do with you. And that's what happened. And I didn't anticipate it because we had this little break when we tried to plant that other church when my kids were small. And I kept my friendships. I didn't have any trouble. I don't think that people saw it the same way. But 2020, 2021 were incredibly lonely. They were very, very hard years for us. They were really hard on my daughter because she was a teenager. She had her own car so she was kind of still going to church and still seeing these people and we weren't. And so it was really hard for her to like kind of circle the square of who was right, I guess.
Was it her closeness to her grandfather that kept her going? Was it her friends? Why was she continuing there when you were gone? After you literally killed a staff member in public.
You did kill him. Yeah.
You killed him.
She loved that. Yeah. She's the oldest grandchild. And until my brother had a baby a year or two ago was the favorite. So she is very close to my dad and very much values that relationship. He is a wonderful grandfather. He's a wonderful man, but he's an incredible grandfather. They are very, very close. She had a hard time with us deciding not to go back to the church because she was worried about how bad it hurt him. Because it wasn't just that a parishioner left or like somebody from his church just quit going after COVID. I'm his daughter. And I was on stage every week. Like they're aware that I'm not there anymore. And the church wasn't big enough to really like not notice that we left.
You can't sneak out of there. Yeah.
Right. So she was worried about how it made him feel and still is worried about that to some degree, even though it's been a few years. And also she did have, this was her friend group. That's who she hung out with. But now she's in college and anybody going in college is not that dedicated or committed to their childhood church anymore. So she's a little less like that. But for a long time, she was going there because her friends were still there and to keep my dad from feeling upset with her, I guess.
Can I ask about your other daughter? Hi, I'm a queer. Mm-hmm. So I was going to ask about your queer, the one that you have.
My queer, my baby queer.
Yeah, your little baby queer. I know that as a queer person growing up in church, we bend over backwards. We are constantly trying to mold ourselves to be as small as possible and not cause any sort of discomfort for anyone because we believe what everyone's telling us about us, which is that we're awful. And even though you are gay affirming and your daughter is so lucky to have that, and thank you for being so loving to your daughter, which sounds silly to say, but some parents do find it difficult. What was your daughter's reaction? I wonder if perhaps she worried that like, oh, is this because of me? Is this because I'm gay? Is this, how did you talk to your queer child about leaving the church? And did they ever bring anything up like that?
Well, you have to understand a little bit about her is that she's always hated church since toddlerhood.
She's good.
Yeah, she knew. She'd been new.
Smart.
But yeah, she's always hated it. She would go kicking and screaming. She didn't attend Sunday school. She would go sit in my dad's office and play on her Game Boy. That's what she did every Sunday morning. She's also neurodivergent. She hated like the loud, like we would turn all the lights out and the sound is really loud. The songs are loud. And she hated that. Like it's way too much sensory overload for her. She was in dad's office, spinning in the chair, playing Game Boy every Sunday. She came out to us very easily. I think she was 12 and I was in the car with her, my other daughter, and my daughter's best friend. And she was like, well, I think I like girls and boys. And we were like, okay. And she was like, all right. And, she never deviated from that.
That's basically Drew's story, right, Drew? When you start talking about your story, I zone out and think about other stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I've heard it all, but it sounds similar.
Yeah,
right?
It's basically, yeah. Okay. Dark turn of events, but
oh, damn it.
It almost was sort of like that with Dad, the person who now hates me for being gay. But before he turned evil, or evil towards me, I should say, that's how he just came in and was like, let's talk about your sexuality. And I was like, what? And coming up to him was so easy before the heart surgery and the Trump of it all.
Yeah.
I'm just so glad your daughter had that experience. And so I guess she was just thrilled that it was over.
She
Like,
is. She's,
done.
I mean, she hated that particular youth pastor. It was so mean to her. She hated being there. And in fact, her and my husband, he didn't really go into church either. So the two of them would stay home a lot. It was me and my older daughter going to church and the two of them staying at home.
What does she think about you continuing for so long? Does she ever look back on that and be like, Mom, what were we doing? What were you doing there?
Because she's an atheist. She fully is like, this is silly. And so, but we have like pictures of her getting baptized when she's like 8. And I was like, why did you even do that? She was like, well, it felt like the next thing to do. Like, and I've apologized. Right. And she's like, Mom, you don't have to apologize. She was like, grew up in it. You didn't know any better. It's fine. We have had so many conversations about God and about the Bible and about how she grew up and how I grew up. And she is the most chill. It's fine. I don't care. I'm not traumatized. Y'all are silly, goofy, loving Jesus for a while. And it's funny now to go look back on it. And she also has to kind of, we have to control ourselves sometimes because my other daughter is still a believer-ish. And so we try to keep how we talk about it from offending her. She never felt like any of the reasons that we left had anything to do with her being queer, even though partially it did, because she came out publicly on my Instagram. She doesn't have social media. And so she was just like, hey, she was in the 8th grade. And she was like, I'd like to come out, or I want to post these pictures of her in her 8th grade, like suit. She wore like a suit the last day of school. And I was like, okay. And she was like, and I want to show everybody that I have on these bisexual socks. She had like bi flag socks that she'd bought at Target or whatever. And I was like, that's great. No problem. And I just put a picture of her up and it was just like, she had a great year. She killed middle school and she's looking forward to high school. # bi socks, bi pride or something like that. This was, oh God, I don't know how old my kid is or what year it was, but I guess it had to have been 2020-ish because it was after COVID. Yeah, it was 2020, like the end of 2020, May of that year, maybe. And nobody from our church, not a single person that we had been friends with, people, and when I say like literally people that were in the room when she was born, said anything. They didn't comment on that post. They didn't like it. They didn't privately message me and say, oh, hey, M came out. Like, are y'all going to be okay? Is everything cool? Like, or I'm proud of her. No positive message, no neutral message, no I hate you message, just nothing, just silence. And I was like, holy shit, y'all don't love us. Y'all don't give a shit about us.
Yeah.
And I mean, these are people, some of them already knew she was gay. Like they were clearly, like they knew she had come out to them already. We'd already had conversations and they still, it was like the opposite of a virtue signal. Like they couldn't say, glad she had a good 8th grade year in that post to us because other people would see them saying something positive to the queer kid. And I just was like, we're fucking done. We were done. I was like, you guys do not love my kid. You aren't safe for my kid. And I don't want to have anything to do with you. So we were out after that. Like the slow ghost of us not having been in church for a while ended there. And I was like, it's no longer a slow ghost. When if they ever text me again, I'm not responding. If they ever say anything to us, we're done. you are not good people and you don't care about us. Yes, my daughter was the catalyst for kind of the moment where I was like, I'm out. But she doesn't feel that. That's not on her in any way.
Good.
It's on them for kind of putting the final nail in the coffin where I was like, good, I don't even have to pretend like y'all are our friends. You aren't.
Wow.
That's terrible.
Terrible, but also
freeing,
like,
I guess, in some way.
from as a queer person hearing that, and a queer person who grew up in Bellevue Baptist Church, so very fine and normal.
Bellevue.org.
That is so, those kinds of stories are so important for queer people to hear. Like when we start, okay, so we started this podcast because I didn't want Grant to kill himself and he needed a project. So that's why we started this
That's like
podcast.
that's like half a joke. That's
It's half a joke.
It's
Yeah.
half a joke. There's
But I was worried. I was concerned, you know. So we started this podcast so he would have purpose in life again. And the thing that I found, like, I didn't think anything about it. I was just like, oh, well, you know, Grant and I don't know each other that well in the grand scheme of things. For the last 20 years, we've lived separate lives. So I was like, oh, this will be fun. I'll get to know my brother, whatever. But I love hearing every episode, we get all these comments from queer people who are like, hearing a straight person, a straight dad with kids, or hearing a straight person in that who was a pastor, you know, now affirming that, like, I'm okay, even though I don't know that person, is so nice. And I know, you know, hopefully younger kids aren't going through it the way that people in my generation did, but just hearing a straight mom from the church explaining that being her reason, it's just, it's so cliche to say, but it really is so healing to hear. Like, I feel like every time I hear a new story of someone doing the right thing by their queer child in church, like, it's just like a little bit of healing, like an extra little quilt square on the weighted blanket of trauma.
And I want to say,
thank you for saying that.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you for saying that. But I want to add something to that, which is it's kind of easy to see a mom in that space. But I want to give you a picture. My husband is 6'2", 240 pounds, big black beard.
Hot.
He's very hot. He's very hot.
Yeah.
But he's a blue collar worker.
On your social media?
Yes.
Look this up real quick. Keep talking.
Okay. So, but he's blue collar. He's big and burly. He's kind of dumb. He's a big old himbo. And he is also like that with her. I want to say, like, very clearly, I got some messages one time years before I left the church where I had put a highlight on my Instagram stories about LGBTQ kids, because there were like 7 or 8 of them just in our church's small youth group. And I knew that they were clearly queer. Some of them had relationships with other kids that they were hiding from other people. And I was worried
they all
about
went to see Sandy Patty together. That's how she knew. They had the Sandy Patty reunion tour.
And I was worried about the crappy youth director being horrible to them. And so I had gone to my dad again. I went to my dad every time I was mad about something and worried about something. And I was like, you need to make sure that he's not preaching, you know, anti-LGBTQ stuff to these kids. And of course that didn't happen. But so instead I was like, well, fuck it. I have influence with these people. I'm going to tell these kids that they're okay. And that if they have questions, they can come to me. And so I put it on my Instagram stories and had a highlight reel. And I left like a question box up. I was like, if you have any questions, it's totally private. I will tell you why I think the Bible is not against you. Not just me personally, but I want to tell you why Jesus isn't, and why the Bible isn't, and why it's okay to be who you are. And I got responses from some of these kids. But anyway, most of the responses I got in that little question box was, how does your husband feel with you spouting all this stuff? What does Ryan think about you saying all of this about everything?
And I'm sorry that I sent those messages. I was upset for the kids. I was upset for the kids.
Yeah,
you know?
He's changed.
So I'm sorry. I'm glad we got to talk about it.
I just want to say, made eggs for my daughter when she got home from school today, and hugs her on a regular basis and absolutely adores the shit out of her, and would fight anybody who gave him shit about her being bisexual, is happy to have pride flags out in our yard, and is still a very Southern, very big, burly, liberal, blue collar man. So there's that going on too. Like, I know that there's like a stereotype of like the mama bear thing But there are dads out there too who were raised in church and who will love their kids just as fiercely as the moms will. Like that's a thing.
Don't
So if
ever
anybody
let
needs
your
that.
husband get open heart surgery. I'm just
Yeah,
letting you
don't
know.
let him
The
die
minute
before that. Let him
a
die
doctor
before
touches
you
his
do
heart.
that.
Yeah,
The
let me
love
introduce you to my
leaves.
dad real quick, and then you'll understand.
Beth, your story about your husband loving your daughter so well. When Drew came out to our dad, my dad went full Michael Scott and looked up gay porn to try to understand him.
What?
That is
Aw.
100% a real story. Did he not
What?
tell you that?
Mm-mm, I haven't heard that.
No.
Okay, so after you and Dad had your conversation, Dad
It was like
came.
Christmas Eve, by the way.
Dad, well, you've got great timing, always have.
Thank
Dad
you.
came to me after your conversation and was like, I finally, because Dad was the last to know, and so he's like, I know everybody knew, and so I kind of would, I want you to know I talked to Drew, and I think everything's okay. I think we're okay, and Grant, sorry, I don't know what that was for. He would
Is
be
that a
like,
bun in the oven?
yeah, he said, well, in Florida, you can't get rid of them anymore. Oh, that's sad. So he said, yeah, I was trying to, I just want to understand him. I want to understand where he's coming from. So I looked up gay porn yesterday, and I kept watching it, and I just don't get it. I don't understand it. And I said, you did what?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Why didn't he start with like Brokeback Mountain? Why did he go straight
Because
to
because my
Pornhub.com
dad
and
my
switch over the
dad,
categories?
One thing that he loved to do was look
That's
at
a big
porn.
deal to switch your categories like that.
Yeah.
Secretly.
No, Nick Nixon loved looking at porn on his office computer. So I think that was just like in his own fucked up way. I think that was his like loving way of being like, I can do this for my son. That's what I'm talking about. Like and people who've listened to the podcast, like, yes, my father's an absolute monster now, but he used to be a very loving person, and he used to be so supportive
To
of
us.
me. And I
he was
know, to us, yes.
Yeah.
And I know that that's like a fucked up thing to say, but like in his own way, I think him looking up porn was like, that was Dad's way. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
like he's so narcissistic that like the fact that he was able to look outside of himself and be like, well, I already look at porn. Let's see what Drew's looking at. That's the sweetest thing I've ever heard. Wow.
Yeah. So how much?
Maybe
how
he was
much-
looking at the wrong video though. There's
How much-
plenty of different kinds.
That's a good point. How much bi porn is your husband watching to support his daughter? That's the real question.
All of it.
Beth, we've kept you way too long.
Yeah,
You've
we
given
have.
us
No.
so much time, and it's been awesome. I'd actually like to formally invite you to be the third co-host of Twinnuendo. We'll change the name. You're fantastic. This has been
Do
great.
I have to cut
Thank
my
you for-
Yeah,
hair
I'm
into
happy to
this,
leave.
whatever this is happening? I mean,
Beth,
What?
we are losing our hair.
Fuck you,
have
Beth.
to. You cannot do this.
Fuck
I'm
you,
sorry.
Beth. Your
Fuck
hairline is still there. You go. Glasses. 3 sets of glasses.
Whoa, I can't tell us apart.
it's the
Beth,
same.
I truly.
If we all look
Twinnuendo?
alike, then
Super-
maybe your husband, like maybe I'm married to him now too.
No, Beth, keep Drew away from him. Keep him away. So seriously, thank you so much for your time. Your
Anytime.
story is great. I think everyone should go check out the Cool Table podcast. Specifically,
Yeah.
go check out those 3 episodes. The 3rd episode, you and your co-host kind of get into what you believe now. Like,
Yeah.
where does faith play a role now and all of that.
Nothing.
And
Same.
okay, well, hey, don't like spoilers.
It's all
Spoilers.
meaningless.
That particular podcast is
but
only
anyway.
about 17 seconds long because I just go, it's shit. It's all bullshit.
Yeah.
And then it's just an ad for Squarespace the rest of the time.
Yeah.
Go check out the Cool Table. It's pop culture podcast. It's great. It's really, really great. I want you to know, I think on the most recent episode, maybe it was an older one, but I think on the most recent one, you mentioned books. You're an avid reader, and
Yes.
I think you shit on a bunch of books that my wife really loves.
Yeah, on
And
purpose.
she's having
Yeah.
to come to terms with that. She said, I heard what she said about my books, and I don't care. I still like her. So I just want you to know she's working through it. she's working
It's
through
fine.
it.
They are the basic bitch books, but when you first get into reading, they're like the thing that everybody reads.
Right.
And I already DM'd her about
Right.
it. It's fine. She can.
You guys work
like
through
You
it, kid.
DM'd
the
her to
crappy
give her
books.
more criticism?
That's
Yes.
Beth.
Jesus
That's
Christ.
Beth.
That
It's
is
why
dark.
I don't have any friends. This is the whole thing.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Now it makes
Well,
sense.
Beth,
Now it
thank you
tracks.
so much. We'll cut part of this conversation and post it publicly as well, kind of a preview.
Yeah,
so
we'll
it
put it
will
on
be
the
out.
IMHO channel so people will actually watch it.
Okay, there's not a Twinnuendo channel. I don't
No, I
understand
know,
what the
but
shade.
I
It's
just-
our show. What the fuck?
Because
Like,
I didn't get
why
to,
are you?
because I didn't get to talk a lot, okay? And I need to feel like I'm coming out on top.
Is
I
this
had a
because
lot
Beth's
of
saying?
trauma.
This is because Beth's saying. That's what's happening. Beth, thank you. You created
The
a monster.
one thing I
and
asked
I'm gonna
her
have
not
to
to
deal
do.
with this. Well, you talked about shit. The one thing she said, please don't do. So
We don't know it was shit. It could have been chocolate.
it was shit. Thank you, everybody, for watching, listening. Go check out the cool table. Beth, do you have any closing words of wisdom, or do you want to sing us out?
Don't you dare,
think
Beth.
they could open your heart?
Yes, that's great. Thank you, everybody.
got.
Bye, Beth. Drew's gone. Well, that's the end of Twinnuendo. Bye, everybody. Bye.
Bye.